Hi, welcome to Catching Serendipity. Today we have Jess, and Jess is going to tell us a little bit about her background, but she's a musician, and we want to talk. I want her to talk about what's like in the music industry, and she works on the train, and talk about that a little bit. So I'll let you take it away, Jess.
All right on. I'm Jess. I grew up in Texas. Been interested in music since I was a kid. Lived in New York for about 8 years, and then moved to Austin for about 7 years, and now I'm living in Williams, Arizona. I've been there for about 2 years. So.
Talk about traversing the country.
Yeah, right?
It's kind of a triangle.
Right, yeah, I went big and then a little smaller and then really small.
So what do you think, coming from Texas, was New York a big surprise for you?
Definitely, yeah. I learned a lot. I had just turned 18 when I moved there, so I was pretty naive. Didn't really, I thought I knew about the world, but really didn't, and learned very quickly what I needed to adjust to. But it was a good experience. I learned a lot while I was there. I grew up a lot, and then kind of got to a point where I felt like I had absorbed as much as I needed to, and I was sort of ready to pare back down and go back south. So,
I think about it. You said you were 18 when you arrived there and lived there for 8 years. Mm-hmm. Talk about formative years.
Big time, yeah. I definitely escaped plenty of danger that I got myself into as a young woman. But yeah, I met so many wild people and went so many cool places, and I had amazing teachers all throughout college, and had a really good time. And then I kind of felt myself starting to get a little calloused and a little cynical, and I didn't feel healthy anymore, and I needed more space. And I just kind of had new priorities, so it was good. It was like it was time to go, but I wasn't leaving in a bad way. I was kind of like, all right, I'm done. I've got what I needed.
So from there you went to Austin.
Yeah, I was thinking about.
Now that's a real music capital, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Which that was hard too, because I was in a few bands in New York, and I was in a band when I decided to leave that I really liked. So I was sad to leave them, but I knew I was going to a place with lots of music, and I was thinking about going to California, but I didn't know if I actually wanted to be there, so I thought I could go to Austin and be a few hours from my family and halfway to California, and then if Austin didn't work out, I'd just keep going, but Austin worked out for a while.
I can't imagine living in Texas, because I was born in Arizona, but I'm from Alaska.
Right.
And so it's so different.
Definitely.
In some ways, but over the years I've determined that is the same in some ways.
The same as what?
Fiercely independent people.
Definitely.
Wide open spaces.
Yeah.
Not the same as in Alaska, but really
That's a good comparison, yeah.
I met some people from Texas, and they're all very independent.
They're very proud of where they're from. When I left Texas, I was still a teenager, so I was very much like, screw this place, and I hate country, and, rejecting my upbringing like, many people do, and then came full circle to really appreciate Southern hospitality and Southern music and just Southern traditions. So, I came back around, to really appreciate it.
You said you enjoyed music since you were a child. When did you start playing?
I picked up a guitar when I was about 11. But I have memories of, singing to my shampoo bottles when I was 5 and giving a full performance at bath time, and then my neighbor, her dad had a guitar, and it only had 2 strings on it. It was broken, but I picked it up and I played those 2 strings, and I thought it was the most fun thing I'd ever done. I asked if I could borrow it, and her dad was like, sure, you could borrow this broken guitar with 2 strings, no problem. And I took it home and I played it all the time until I think my parents were finally like, oh, Jesus Christ, we'll get you a guitar. You know what I mean? Let's figure this out. Play more than 2 strings. And so that was kind of the beginning. But I was very shy for a long time. I didn't start really playing out until my 20s.
And what got you into bands? Do you think?
Well, I was always writing songs as a teenager, and then in college I felt sad because music kind of took the back seat compared to my studies. And I didn't go to school for music because I'm all by ear, so I would never get into a school because I can't read music, and so I felt like my music was kind of, like I said, taking the back seat. But I was dating a guy who was a really prolific guitar player, and he had been in multiple bands, and I started showing him the stuff I was doing and the little recordings I was making, and his band broke up, and he said, I think you should try being in a band with me. And so I became a lead singer with him, and I got put on bass because everybody else was better than me at guitar. And that was my first experience with the band, and it went really well. We played all over New York, and it kind of opened my eyes to that world and those opportunities. And so from that point on, I think I developed more confidence just because other people asked me to play with them, and I was like, all right, well, I can't be that bad.
And a bass is a great thing to start
Oh,
out
bass
with.
is a lot of fun.
I'm not a guitar player, but I did learn how to play the bass.
There you go.
And when I went to buy a bass, I said, what kind of bass do you think I should get? And my husband Steve said, an acoustic bass, because there's nothing sexier than going to a campfire and seeing a girl have a bass at the campfire. That's it.
An acoustic bass, nonetheless. You don't see that quite as often, but it really is a beautiful sound.
It is, and it's a very long guitar.
Right.
But it is a really great sound. I really like it a lot. So do you still play the bass, or?
I just got a bass again because I played for a while. I always play on my demos and my recordings and stuff, and then when we moved to Arizona, I sold my bass, which I had this little B bass. It's kind of like a cheaper version of what Paul McCartney played, the little violin bass. So it's a short scale. You would love it because it's great for small people, and it feels like a toy, but it has like a nice warm sound. It's great for pop music, like the Beatles. But when I moved, I was really paring down. I got rid of like 75% of my stuff, which felt really good. And that bass was something that I always had issues with. It has a floating bridge, so the intonation was always out. So I was like, I'm gonna let this go. I'm holding on to it because I'm super sentimental, but I don't actually want to play this bass anymore. And I just got a new bass, a little Yamaha, that I like a lot. It feels more like a P bass, and it has kind of a deeper, throatier sound to it. So it kind of fits where I'm at now, sonically, So I'm back on the bass. It's a lot of fun.
So how did you end up in Arizona?
My husband grew up in southern Arizona, and then we met in Austin, and he was ready to leave Austin for a long time. He belongs in the woods, and so he wanted to come back this way, but he always kind of loved northern Arizona the most and had this love affair with Flagstaff, and but Flagstaff has grown considerably, and we were kind of still looking for something smaller, so we found Williams and just decided to go for it. It's close enough to a lot of really cool places that we're like, we'll figure out something in that area,
So now Williams is where you leave the freeway to go up to the Grand Canyon.
Sure is.
There's another way to get there, a couple other ways to get there, but that's the main point.
Right.
And the train leaves from there to go up to the Grand Canyon. And you're saying yes, but you know more about that than I do because you play on the train.
But I had no idea when we moved to Williams. I didn't know anything about the train. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was totally a gamble. And I didn't even realize that there were job opportunities on the train for musicians. But I was at the post office one day, and it was one of those at right place, right time. I was going to go the day before, and I procrastinated, and I went the next day. And because I went the next day, I met this man, and he walked right up to me, and he said, I lived in Williams for 40 years, and I've never seen you. Who are you? And I was like, I'm nobody. I just moved here. And we got to talking, and he was asking what I was going to do in town, and we started talking about music, and he said, I have a job for you. And before I even knew it, he had the mayor of Williams on the phone. Because at the time, the mayor, John Moore, was booking all of the talent on the train. And so he just called John and said, this woman's going to come sing on the train, and this and that. He said, okay, we'll throw her on, see how she does. So I went, and I I followed one of the entertainers, Larry Dean, who's been singing on the train for about 25 years. He's this 7-foot tall, silvered head, 75-year-old man. He's so prolific and incredible. And I followed him around and watched him do his shows. So you go into the train cars, and these passengers are on a 2-hour journey to the Grand Canyon. And you spend about 15 minutes with them, depending on how many shows you have that day. And I watched him just spend his 15 minutes with people and interact with them and try to make them smile and share music. And he's packed full of music history. He's like an encyclopedia. He's incredible. So his gift is that he can meet any person and ask you, where you're from, or kind of get a little bit of information about your life. And then he can somehow connect a song to that information. So say, oh, well, so-and-so is from Alabama and they wrote this song, and he'll find a way to connect with people. And it was really, really amazing to watch. And so I couldn't believe that was a job that they were offering to me, especially being that I had no idea what I was going to do. And so that was about 2 years ago, and I'm still doing it, and I've improved a lot. It was pretty bad at first, because I was never really like a cover player. I didn't know a lot of covers. I was usually just doing my own thing. So it took a minute to really read the room, figure out what people respond to, how to really connect with people in a genuine way. And now I feel like I'm always in progress, but now that I've gotten to where I'm really comfortable with it, it's a dream job.
Awesome.
It's
That's
a lot
great.
of fun, yeah.
It's great to see somebody enjoy what they do so much.
Right. It's kind of, I feel like I'm getting away with something almost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm
right.
like, you're really going to give me money to do this? It's
you
wild.
can't think of a better job, unless it's the job I used to have, which is a tour guide in Alaska.
Right.
I mean, really? You're going to pay me to do
Well,
that?
so, that you're supposed to find a job that you love, right? But it's not that easy oftentimes. And, I was somebody who worked in coffee shops for a decade, and, as many musicians do, and I really couldn't see another option because music was always the priority, and so there was a lot of hopelessness in that decade of coffee shops. But, I met some of my best friends in that 10 years, and I learned a lot of things, and I had a lot of freedom. So it wasn't for nothing. But I guess I'm trying to say that for a lot of young musicians, it can feel like a dead end street. But sometimes you just have to step out of your comfort zone, take a gamble, say yes, and things will kind of line up for you when they're supposed to,
So, as a woman musician, have you ever experienced any sexism in the field?
It's tricky. I think that what comes to mind is what a lot of people would call like mansplaining, where it's like men trying to give me information, right? And it's tricky because sometimes they're telling me something I already know. But I try to receive that gracefully because oftentimes I'm getting information that I don't know. So I don't want to shut it down, because sometimes with the mansplaining I also learn something, so that can be challenging, of just kind of smiling and nodding when somebody's trying to explain, how to restring your guitar, for example. And I'm like, yes, I've been restringing my guitar for 20 years. I understand it very well. But then at the same time, that same person might offer something really interesting that I didn't know. So that, I don't know if that's sexism per se, because perhaps men experience that as well. But that's something that has come up plenty of times. And I think that also, I think it's easy sometimes for men to equate a woman's success to her image, and so I try really hard to be a technical player and singer and lyricist, so that no one could ever say, well, you got to where you are because, you put on a nice outfit and you look good or something, because you're a woman. It's, I don't ever want someone to be able to say that, why I was successful, you know, because I think it's all important. I think you're a performer, that you want to, you know, put on a show and you want to look nice and you want to give people,
Right.
you know, you want to be entertaining, but at the same time, you know, more than any of that, I just want to be a good songwriter. So I want that to be what people take away. So I don't know. I guess to answer your question, I don't feel like I necessarily am encountering like toxic sexism on a daily basis, but you know, there's little things here and there. Because right now I am the only female performer on the train, which I like, being the token female, you know. But you know, it's you just kind of have to be self-aware in that environment when you're around a bunch of men and you're the woman, you know. There will be a little bit of like, what's the word? Sometimes people will say things that are slightly inappropriate, you know. But at the same time, some of the men have told me stories about, you know, some wild old lady slipping a tip in his back pocket and then giving him a little tap, you know. And it's like, it's funny and we all laugh, but if somebody did that to me, I'm like, I don't know how I would feel about that. But you know, there's always room for those things to happen, so you just kind of have to handle it gracefully, know where your line is in the sand and when to draw it, you know.
So you're sitting in front of the mic, and you're a DJ here at Radio Sunnyside.
Yes.
Is music what brought you to being a DJ?
Yeah, you know, I've wanted to be a DJ for a while. There was a community radio station in Austin that was really great. They had a bunch of really fabulous DJs, all kinds of music being played, and it was just kind of a challenging process to get through to have a show with them. So it never quite panned out for me, but when I came to this area and a friend connected me with you and all of the different things that you're doing and said, I think you should meet this person, you know, and then I kind of saw your world and it occurred to me that like maybe I could do this too, and it just so happened that there was room for me to do that. But I enjoy, I like being silly, I like making people laugh, I like sharing information, and I think that also being a DJ sort of keeps me accountable for seeking out new music, because I think we all kind of hit that wall every now and then where we feel like I just listen to the same old stuff that I always go to, and I don't know every now and then I'll go through these waves of just feeling like I just don't know what to listen to. I'm kind of sick of all my music. Nothing's working. But having a radio show once a week, you know, throughout the week I'm actively searching for new music, or even music from, you know, older bands that, you know, maybe I didn't know. I'm just always kind of digging. So I find that being in the position as a DJ kind of encourages me to keep exploring. You know, I have that accountability. So
I think for me it's I have to listen to the songs I didn't listen to on the album.
Right.
You know, I had one or two songs on the album that I really
that
loved.
you love.
So the rest of them,
and you go back.
And you go back and you listen to them. Why didn't I ever listen to that before? That's
Definitely.
a great song.
Yeah. And you know, I also like, I'm still kind of working on being a platform for other musicians that are trying to get their music out, because I've also just realized that, you know, being a successful musician is very much about community, and it's not just about your audience, but it's about all the other musicians that are around you reaching for the same things. So if we have this community that's based in music where we're all lifting each other up and playing each other's music and promoting each other's shows and having each other on the bill, like that's really how you build a lasting network, is when you support other people. It's like there's a quote, I think I actually said this on my last radio show, but that if you want to lift yourself up, lift someone else up, right? And it really is true.
It is.
Because you always feel better when you help someone else versus when you help yourself, right? It's more rewarding. It goes further.
Somebody said to me one time, oh, I think it's, you know, you have altruism, a disease of altruism. First off, it's not a disease. I said,
You're sick.
altruism is not a disease. But, and even if that's true, if you get a rush from helping somebody else, what a great way to get a rush. Okay, fine. I'm doing it just so I feel good.
Right.
Who
What's
cares?
wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. Before we go, Jess, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I'd like to invite you back. Bring your guitar. We'll do a video of just you playing music.
Would
How
love
does that
to.
sound?
Yep, anytime.
Okay, great. That would be great. Well, thank you for sitting down with us, Jess.
Thank
I
you,
really
sweetie.
appreciate it. And this whole series is about women doing what they think is right at the time. And you're a perfect example of that. So I appreciate that. Thank you very
Julie.
much.
It's my pleasure.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much.